Good afternoon, Ghana. It's 12 o'clock. Time to reach for mobile water. Mobile water, unique in every way.
"30 years of joyfulness." Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday News. The Midday News is live on Joy 99.7 FM and hits 103.9 FM here in Accra. We are on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi and on myjoyonline.com. We are also live in all 16 regions of Ghana via various affiliates on X Spaces and on Facebook. The Midday News is supported by Petrosol Platinum Energy, energizing dreams. Coming up, police arrest 47 illegal miners in Tano, Nimri Forest as they intensify crackdown on Galamsey in the Western North region.
In total, we burnt not less than 2,000 pumping machines today. In fact, we burnt since the inception of page yesterday. There are more than 500 chamfer machines also burnt. And the number of equipment used in the illegal mining activities. All we need is the support to be able to sustain it.
Head of the Civil Service has warned persistent underfunding of key state institutions, including anti-corruption agencies, poses a serious threat to the country's democratic governance.
The Electoral Commission, the NCC, OSP. What I have found interesting is that we have created these institutions and they are literally anemic. We are not funding them. And therefore, we are trusting the Lord that some way, somehow, these institutions will deliver. But enthusiasm alone does not grow cassava. Also in this bulletin, sad but happy. He's gone to God.
He did his work right to the very end. And we know he's gone to God. And we're sad, yes, but we're also happy. He finished his work. He did his work well.
That's how Catholics around the world are remembering the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, who died this morning.
I was screaming in the car, very sad. We are supposed to have our picnic today, so it's like kind of a mourning and happiness. But I believe Pope Francis will want us to celebrate him and celebrate this day.
We'll also tell you who is likely to succeed him. Later, Amnesty International is calling for constitutional reforms to prevent nursing mothers from serving custodial sentences.
Pregnant women and nursing mothers are subjected to custodial sentences that often expose them and their children to harsh prison conditions, infringing upon their rights to health, dignity, and family life.
However, a Supreme Court judge has outlined the circumstances that compel judges to impose custodial sentences on nursing mothers.
Sometimes, due to the nature of the offense, you cannot let the woman go home. And then you try to look for a family to take the child, but nobody is willing to come forward.
I am Hannah Odame. I'll bring you details of this and more in this bulletin. Thanks for choosing us. This is Joy News. We are independent, fearless, and credible. We start with the Ghana Police Service. They have arrested 47 illegal miners in a major operation within the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve as part of its sustained efforts to clamp down on illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. The arrests were made during a series of special intelligence-led operations carried out over the past few days in the Western North region. Police also seized 11 excavators and a bulldozer, which were being used for illegal mining activities along the riverbanks. In an earlier raid on Wednesday, the 17th of April, the police apprehended 26 individuals in a similar operation conducted in the Subri Forest and surrounding areas along the Tano River. Among those arrested were 17 Ghanaians and 8 Chinese nationals. Now, let's go over to the Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Grace Ansah-Kofi, to tell us more about these arrests. Thank you so much for joining us on the Midday News. From your official briefing, how many arrests have been made so far and how many equipment and weapons have been seized?
Good afternoon and good afternoon to your listeners. As you are aware, the Inspector General of Police declared a war on illegal mining, that is Galamsey as we popularly call it. And at the back of this, a special operation was conducted from 17 within the Samra Boy enclave in the Nimri Forest along the Tano River And since 17th to date, we have arrested 47 persons in connection with these illegal mining activities. Out of these 47, 39 are Ghanaian and 8 are Chinese. We also have 4 women among the suspects.
Oh, we had the Interior Minister tell us exactly what happened to the foreign nationals who are engaged in Galamsey. What happens to the 8 Chinese that you have arrested?
So after our initial processes, we will hand them over to the Ghana Immigration Service to take it up from there.
Okay, what about the Ghanaians? What's the status that they have right now? Are you processing them for courts?
So all of them are currently in custody and will be put before the court soon.
Do you know when that soon is?
That should be tomorrow, most likely.
Tomorrow, most likely. But what's the future of these operations that you're embarking on?
These operations will continue. We will sustain them. All our regional commands are acting same. This is not just within the Western region, within the Upper West region, within all other regions where there are Galamsey activities. Our commanders are on the ground, and the exercises will continue. And so we use this opportunity to caution those involved. We are not stopping. We are not stopping. We are coming for you, and our officers will keep up here.
Okay. So what about the equipment that you seize? What exactly do you do with them?
So in the meantime, they are exhibits. So we'll be holding them in our custody as part of our evidence when we put the cases before the court. And after that, depending on what the court directs, we will take it up from there.
Thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon, Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, ACP Grace Ansa Akrofi. Now, in the Western region, the Forestry Commission is stepping up efforts to raid forest reserves of illegal mining. Let's listen to the Regional Director of the Commission, Nana Busumpim.
Our environment is now becoming a representation of the ECOWAS region because you have all manner of people coming from neighboring countries to engage in this illegal mining activity. We've seen these incidents of human trafficking, and it looks as though now Ghana, through the illegal mining menace, is becoming a hub for the trafficking of women and young girls. So pathetic. We saw a lot of them inside the forest. Drug trafficking, we saw it. We saw cocaine. We saw Indian hemp. We saw those tramadol and the red substance whatsoever. They are all there. And today we saw the gangs operating, the mafia system, where the miners will even have to pay every day to a supposed group they call the committee to be able to be there. If you fail to pay, you are molested. And they are charging them 200, 300 on daily basis for them to go and mine. Now as I speak to you, we can say nearly 3,000 hectares of forest reserve land in the Takoradi Forest District has been impacted, destroyed by these activities of the illegal miners.
That was Nana Busumpim. He's a Western Regional Director of the Forestry Commission. Two other stories. Catholics around the world are mourning the death of the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, who died this morning. The Pope, who has been battling pneumonia for some time, was at the Vatican yesterday for Easter Mass. We'll bring you some tributes from around the world and what Catholics here in Ghana are saying about him. But first, who was Pope Francis? This news desk tells us more. He was at the Vatican's St. Peter's Square yesterday for Easter Mass, and these were perhaps his last words to the excited worshippers who were surprised by his appearance.
Maestro della cerimonia, ti leggere il messaggio.
According to the Vatican, the Pope, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, died at 7:35 a.m. today at age 88. The eldest of 5 children worked as a nightclub bouncer and floor sweeper before graduating as a chemist. He also enjoyed tango dancing and became a supporter of his local football club, San Lorenzo. Elected on the 13th of March 2013, the ascension of Pope Francis to the papacy heralded many firsts. The 266th Pope was the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church. His election surprised many church watchers who had seen the cleric, known for his concern for the poor, as an outsider. Some unforgettable memories of the Pope will include how he championed the rights of immigrants and the poor. In his sermons, he called for social inclusion and criticized governments that failed to pay attention to the poorest in society. Shortly after becoming Pope in the year 2013, he took part in an anti-abortion march in Rome, calling for the right of the unborn from the moment of conception. He also asked the church to welcome people regardless of their sexual orientation, but insisted gay adoption was a form of discrimination against children. The Pope resisted the ordination of women, declaring Pope John Paul II had once and for all ruled out that possibility. The Pope shunned the papal limousine and insisted on sharing the bus that took other cardinals home. He described this as his way of favoring humility. Also, to eschew what he calls the trappings of the senior cleric, the Pope usually flew economy and preferred to wear the black gown of a priest rather than the red and purple of his position. Pope Francis chose to receive his cardinals informally and standing rather than seated on the papal throne. As Pope, he made great efforts to heal the 1,000-year rift with the Eastern Orthodox Church. He therefore worked with Anglicans, Lutherans, and Methodists. In the year 2014, he persuaded the Israeli and Palestinian presidents to join him to pray for peace. And lots of tributes are pouring from around the world, and my colleague Elton Bobby joins me in the studio with some of them. Share with us the tributes.
So, Hannah, we have King Charles, and he writes, "The Queen and I remember with particular affection our meeting with His Holiness over the years, and we were greatly moved to have been able to visit him earlier in the month. We send our most heartfelt condolences and profound sympathy to the church he served with such resolve and to the countless people around the world." There's also the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. She said she mourns friends who had given her comfort in tough times and done his duty to the end. The India Prime Minister says he honors Pope Francis as a beacon of compassion, humility, and spiritual courage. Scottish First Minister John Swinney has also described him as a voice for peace, tolerance, and reconciliation. There's also the Spain Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has also paid tribute to Pope Francis' commitment to the most vulnerable, and Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof said he was in a very way a man of the people.
What about those in Ghana? What have they been saying?
Well, speaking on news that's on joining us, Reverend Father Andrew Campbell, who is founder of the Wager Leprosarium, said the Pope would be remembered for his reconciliatory nature. Before we hear from him, though, listen to some Catholics we spoke to after Mass this morning at the Holy Spirit Cathedral here in Accra.
I remember him for his love for the poor and then his desire to open up the church. And we believe that God will grant us a worthy successor to continue his legacy for the church.
I'm sad. I would like to. I was screaming in the car, very sad. There were tears in my eyes, and I prayed to God that he should receive his soul because he's been a very wonderful Pope.
He doesn't discriminate, and when it is necessary for all of us Catholics to pray for something, he will come out openly and say, I just felt that I've lost something. I'm hurt in a way.
Right, so remember Father Campbell, he had a private audience with the Pope in May last year, and he spoke to Joy News about that encounter.
When we met, he was so human and understanding, and he was just so friendly. He said, "What work do you do?" And I told him I work with prisoners, I work with street children, I work with lepers, I work with prisoners. He says, "You're a brave man. Don't give up. Continue the work of Christ." And that's always inspired me, those words that he gave to me that day. He always told us priests, "Get out of your sacristies," he'd say.
I can imagine how hurt you must be with this news coming in about his passing. For many Christians around the world, what does this mean, the death of the Pope?
The whole world will certainly mourn because he was a man of prayer. He was a man of vision. He was a man of God. He's an example to us that, it's not riches we want. It's not money. It's not power.
It's Easter Monday. We've just moved past mourning the death or the commemoration of the death of Jesus Christ to celebrating his rise And then we hear news of the passing of the Pope. The paradox of it, unpack it for us. Today being Easter Monday.
We are sad, yes, but we're also happy. He died in his boots. He was a man who did his work right to the very end. You know, he's gone to God. And we're sad, yes, but we're also happy. He finished his work. He did his work well. And we thank God for the gift. You know, people will remember him.
So that was for the Campbell speaking with Sweetie Abochi on News Desk. Elton is still here with me. Elton, who is most likely to be the next Pope?
So, Hannah, after the death of Pope Francis at age 88, the world is waiting to see who will succeed him. As the cardinals gather in Rome for the Papal conclave, he was the first Latin American Pope. So that signaled a wider change within the Catholic Church. And we will now see the first Black or Asian Pope. Now, all cardinals are eligible to ascend to the position of Pope. But according to media reports from Rome, 8 individuals have been shortlisted for this prestigious position, and when they go into conclave, they will decide among these 8. Now, top on the list is Cardinal Peter Apia Texem, and of course, Cardinal Peter Apia Texem is a former Bishop of Cape Coast, would be the first Black Pope, and would have the appeal of reaching out to Africa. Born in Ghana, he was sent by Pope Francis as a peace envoy to South Sudan. He occupies the middle ground on the tricky subject of gay relationship, arguing that laws in many African countries are too harsh, but that the view of Africans on the subject must be respected. Texan was the bookie's favorite at one point during the 2013 conclave when Francis was chosen. And then there's also another individual, and his name is Tagle, the former Archbishop of Manila. He has also emerged as a frontrunner in the betting market. He would have been the appeal of being the first Black Asian Pope, the region with the fastest growing Catholic population. He has opposed abortion rights in the Philippines, but will be considered one of the more liberal candidates. There's also Pietro Peroni. He's 70 years old. He is the closest to the continuity candidate, having worked with Pope Francis as Cardinal Secretary of State. He is seen as a moderate, though not as close to the liberal wing as Francis has sometimes appeared to be. When Ireland voted in 2015 to legalize same-sex marriage, Parolin described it as a defeat for humanity. And then also, Hannah, there is Peter Endo. He is 72 years old. He's the Archbishop of Budapest, will be the second Pope if he is successful. There's Jose Tolentino, 59. And he is not to be confused with the U.S. baseball player of same age, and usually carries the Surface de Mendoza to distinguish himself, hailing from Cristiano Ronaldo's birthplace of Madeira in Portugal. There's Matteo Zippi, 69, from Italy. There's also Mario Grech, 68 years old. And then there's also Robert Sarah, 79, and he's also Black. Robert Sarah. And this Robert Sarah is born in French Guinea. Sarah is another possibility as the first Black Pope. So out of these 8, when they go into conclave, one will emerge as the next Pope.
And we don't know when that conclave will be. Okay, thank you very much, Elton John Broby, giving us those details there. And let's hear from Father Campbell. He has a way of walking us through the process of electing the new Pope.
So all the cardinals, over 200, I think, cardinals will come together from all parts of the world to the Vatican, and they'll have to have the funeral of Pope Francis first. And after the funeral, then the preparations for a conclave. And then the conclave will be at the Sistine Chapel. All those who will be eligible for electing of a pope. And then a new pope will be announced. Now that will take maybe a few weeks. I don't know exactly. Depends on when we will bury Pope Francis. So it could take a few weeks.
Let's move on. The head of the civil service, Dr. Evans Agridaku, has raised alarm over the persistent underfunding of critical state institutions, cautioning the trend undermines national efforts to uphold democratic governance and combat corruption. He was addressing participants at a public sector reform in Accra.
This year, for instance, for the 2025 budget, I chaired almost all the commissions, the budget of almost all the commissions. The Track Commission, the NCC, SHRAJ, OSP, and so on and so forth. What I have found interesting is that we have created these institutions and they are literally anemic. We are not funding them. And therefore, we are trusting the Lord that some way, somehow, these institutions will deliver. But enthusiasm alone does not grow cassava. And so we think that these institutions ought to be properly funded. And we try to concentrate on just one, and if you know others will submit. But we are touching base with our values, our ethics, and so on. And then the issue of democratic citizenship.
He also called for an enhanced salary structure for heads of the various state commissions.
About the issue of salaries and so on. There is no parity of esteem. And so it should be of interest to this institution. Oh, they deal with money. And therefore, there is a tendency that they will be corrupt. You know what they do? They create artificial conjunction. Right? So there is no moving so that there will be conjunction, and then they will create a fertile grounds for this prebendalism, this corruption, among others. So the idea that somebody is working with money or is collecting money and therefore must be well remunerated as against those who are just signing or pushing paper, that idea is simply untenable. That justification is untenable.
You heard the head of the civil service, Dr. Evans Agri Darko there. Now, Ghana's finance minister, Dr. Kesela Tuforsing, is leading the country's delegation to the 2025 IMF and World Bank spring meetings. This is the first of such participation under the new NDC administration. The meetings come just 1 week after Ghana secured a staff-level agreement with the IMF on the fourth review of its supported program. This agreement is expected to lead to the release of approximately $375 million in support of Ghana's economic recovery agenda. And George Riafi of Joy Business is there for us and joins us for updates. Now, George, walk us through some of the key issues to expect from there.
And Hannah, in your presentation, you spoke about, if you can hear me, you spoke about coming on the back of the fourth review. Now, if you want to describe this fourth review as conditional, there are a lot of things that they secured an agreement here in Accra that they need to follow up on. Now, per the timetable, all other things being equal, they're looking at somewhere in June this year, the board will meet, take the staff report, and then release that $360 million. But there are some things that were agreed here conditionally that Ghana needs to follow up on. And that is why the team will be doing that as critical as possible. There's a talk about the Auditor General doing that audit of arrears for last year, and there is some clarity that the fund is looking up for in terms of what's the fund staff report on the issues about the arrears, and therefore coming to these annual meetings, there will be an opportunity for Ghana to get some clarity, or the fund to get some clarity from Ghana in terms of our arrears position. Also, there's talk about how these trade tariffs will impact on several countries around the world and possibly including Ghana. There could be an impact on our revenues for the 2025 budget. Don't forget that oil prices have started declining as well. That could also have an impact on what government is projecting to get from the oil revenue. So there could be an instance where maybe there'll be a special fund established by the IMF to actually support countries like Ghana, and whether that formal request to be made by Ghana or not. And all those things will come up during this spring meeting that is bringing all the central bank governors, all the finance ministers around the world, and those who matter in the business community for the next 1.5 weeks to deliberate on global development. And for many people, how would all these things impact on Ghana, and what will be the next policy action or direction, Hannah?
And that's George Riafi. He's speaking from the 2025 IMF and World Bank spring meetings. He'll be bringing us more updates on myjoyonline.com/Joy Business. You're still listening to the Midday News live on Joy 99.7 FM. Hits 103.9 FM in Accra. We're also on Love 99.5 FM on myjoyonline.com and all our affiliates across the country. We heard the police arresting 47 illegal miners in Tanonimri Forest. And when we come back, Amnesty International Ghana is calling for constitutional reforms to prevent nursing mothers from serving custodial sentences, emphasizing such punishment negatively affects the well-being of their children.
Pregnant women and nursing mothers are subjected to custodial sentences that often expose them and their children to harsh prison conditions, infringing upon their rights to health, dignity, and family life.
Where did I? Na ain't no many ajisa.
Obian, what you chrome her? Ain't you want to say Petrosol for your energizing drinks promotion? Hey boy. Petrosol are celebrating their 10 years in grand style. They're giving back to their loyal customers. Hope you have registered at their online portal. Don't say I didn't tell you, oh.
Each month, customers will stand a chance of winning items like tricycles, motorcycles, television sets, refrigerators, phones, fuel vouchers, and many more. But the best part is that at the end of the promo, we will be giving out a grand prize of 2 Suzuki Espresso cars to lucky winners who stay with us all through the promo period. All you need to join is to visit any of our over 100 stations across the country to get registered, or go to www.petrosolcrm.com to register online.
Petrosol, energizing dreams.
When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth with Kale Charcoal toothpaste. This gives me confidence all day.
Anytime you meet Amma, don't be surprised I smile showing my beautiful white teeth because I don't have cavity thanks to Kale Charcoal toothpaste for its natural charcoal properties. In fact, we are like twins. I can't go without my Kale Charcoal toothpaste.
That be why I dey use Kale Charcoal toothpaste morning and night when I dey go bed safe. It dey make my teeth white when it dey comot every scent from my mouth inside. My confidence level they go up, so I dey show my 32 teeth all.
Introducing the Kale Charcoal toothpaste, formulated with activated bamboo charcoal powder, ensures whiter teeth and removes bad breath. The strong natural property of the activated bamboo charcoal removes bacteria, absorbs surface stains on our teeth caused by coffee, wines, and tobacco. Welcome, Kale Charcoal toothpaste. Kale Charcoal toothpaste, Sankofa Yenchi.
Kale, happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.
Yeah, welcome back. Amnesty International Ghana is calling for urgent constitutional reforms to prevent the incarceration of nursing mothers, stressing such punitive measures have long-lasting negative impacts on the health, development and overall well-being of their children. Let's hear from the country manager for the Human Rights Group, Genevieve Partington, speaking at the Constitutional Review Committee hearing.
Framework in Ghana does not provide adequate protection for the rights and welfare of pregnant women and nursing mothers who are accused or convicted of crimes. There are no clear constitutional or legislative safeguards that consider their special circumstances during sentencing, imprisonment, or detention. As a result, pregnant women and nursing mothers are subjected to custodial sentences that often expose them and their children to harsh prison conditions, infringing upon their rights to health, dignity, and family life. Previous CRC found that there is already a provision for the conversion of the death and custodial sentences of pregnant women who have committed non-capital offenses to non-custodial sentence under an amendment of the Criminal and Other Offences Act in 2002. The white paper was silent on the issue, and the CRCC was also silent on the issue.
However, a Supreme Court judge, Justice Sophia Edinyera, outlines circumstances that compel judges to impose custodial sentence on nursing mothers.
It has been a problem because sometimes, due to the nature of the offense, you cannot let the woman go home. And then you try to look for a family to take the child, but nobody is willing to come forward. I faced that problem before, so the only alternative was to reduce the sentence. But looking at the nature of the offense, even it was unfair to the complainant to reduce the sentence so that the woman will not remain long there. So we have to look at a way of solving that. And I think if this thing, it can be amended and put in the Criminal Procedure Code.
You heard the Supreme Court Judge, Justice Sophia Edinyera. Now, government has made commitment to complete the construction of an airport in the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga. This follows a residents-driven initiative to construct a runway to fast-track the process. The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, Yvonne Opari, has visited the area to inspect the proposed site, and our correspondent in the Upper East region, Albert Sori, was there and filed the following reports.
The Upper East region is situated over 800 kilometers from Accra. Therefore, Journeys by bus typically take a minimum of 12 hours to reach the capital, highlighting the urgent need for an airport in the region to make it easier for people to travel by air, especially in emergencies. In response to these security issues and the long-standing need for direct access to air travel, a social group known as Alangube initiated preparatory works on the abandoned site at Sombrongo and rallied support from residents and stakeholders to draw attention to the project.
What we have done on our own selves, together with our social group Alangube, is to create this runway of 120 meters by 3,500, which is more than an international airport runway.
A resident ending the report by Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sorry. And what's up in the trends?
Hannah, I mean, when you go on social media, the number one story is about the passing of Pope Francis and the Vatican.
I thought so.
I mean, pictures and videos that are flooding online just show how he was a humanitarian. I mean, one of the things that people are lauding him for was the fact that when Gaza and Israel was happening, he never went quiet about it. He would always call the Catholic churches in Gaza.
Thank you so much, Derek Elom. That's it for the Midday News with me, Hannah Odame. You can find more stories on myjoyonline.com. Coming up next is Living Word